Hi, my name is Kerry Mussington. I'm the founder of Mind Over Matter, but I bring you me and my personal opinion, my own personal opinion on a post. There's a post that, many people are in a position of duty of care, and too many people in that position are blamed for things that are not entirely their fault. Okay, today I speak about social workers. That's what I'm going to talk about. Social workers, those people that get blamed for removing children, or that's not the only reason why social services are involved. But it came to my attention that I had a message that somebody was completely disgruntled at a post that was shared. And I'm going to read the post because I feel that it needs to be said. It needs to be talked about from the social services point of view. I am not one of those. However, I've been in a position where I've had to hand a child to the social workers before. And that circumstances was for the child's safety, for the mother also. And I didn't want the mother to hurt the child, and which she had threatened to hurt the child. Now, social services are there to make sure a child is safe, but they're supposed to be supportive all the way around. All right. But I can go into this a little bit more, and I'm going to break down this message that I've got. It says, copy if you want to. The world needs to see what reality really is. Okay. Until you've been a social worker, do not criticize. There are only two people that can remove a child, and that is a court judge and a police officer, not social workers. Did you hear that? This is coming from a social worker. Until you've been a social worker, do not criticize. Again, there are only two people that can remove a child: a court judge and a police officer, not a social worker. Do you know that? They say. You can show a social worker a picture of a bruise all you want, but if a doctor is not prepared to say someone caused it and is not an accident, then what can a social worker do? So basically, what that person's saying is that when somebody says, yeah, but look, there's a picture. There's a picture. I've got a picture. I've took pictures. But what they're saying is that she or he, what they're saying is that needs to be signed off from a doctor. And I've seen many of cases where a doctor has made a report of what they think the findings are about the bruise or the incident or the mark on a child's body. And I've seen people protest against that mark on that child's body. We need to know how a mark got on a child's body, but we need to know the welfare of the child. Right. Goes on to then turn around and say, you can show a picture to a social worker of the bruises all you want, but if a doctor is not prepared to say someone caused it and it's not an accident, then what can a social worker do? Did you know that when a doctor confirms injury, non-accidental, can police and social workers act on that information? Did you know that some doctors will not even see a child if they are happy with a picture that the injury appears accidental? Did you know that there's no shared system between one department to the next, never mind between professionals? So we're talking about safeguarding here, all right? Okay, safeguarding. So how can information be fully shared without human error? Do you know parents can be good liars and deceive all those around, including family? Professionals are not in the home. They only see small snippets, and they have to make big life-changing decisions at times to take action. Children are taught to lie, despite what happens to them and to schools and other professionals, and despite what the child is going through, they will cover for parents because the consequences of telling the truth is far worse. Children are taught The care system is a scary place by society, so why would they speak out? Yes, you get crap professionals who fail, but the parents are to blame. To stop this black blame game and focus on the parent. Tell Boris when he speaks out about leaving no stone unturned. We need resources. We need a computer system which shares safeguarding information that can be accessed by police, social workers, education and health across the country, and not just in one area. We're talking countywide. Fund it. Stop blaming and help. I don't know one social worker who wants a child dead or abused. Even if they're not the best at their job, they try to help. Where's the training? Where's the consideration? Whoops. Where is the consideration? Oh, I'm so sorry. You just one slip and you lose it. Okay. Where is the consideration for social workers? Where's the consideration? Not being an emergency service and paid that way. Do you know social workers, when they do remove a child, can be out all night taking part in a number of important roles? And they do so unpaid. Their own childcare not even taken into consideration, and not seeing their own families because they're out helping others. They are not paid for this. Did you know that they sometimes pay out of their own pockets to buy kids' clothing and foods and then try to claim it back? And if they lose the receipt, they don't get it back. But what financial team works at midnight to give money and food? What they're saying is that when they go to a circumstance, when they go to a place and the place hasn't got any food and they see the kids hasn't got any clothes, they can't quite tap into the system and say, hey, we need this straight away because it's not open. So they take it on board themselves to not leave that person in derelict and to provide, as a human being, to provide a small meal, and it's coming out of their own pocket. You'll say, should they do that? It's not work ethics. They're doing things out of the remit of the work. But hang on a minute. When we get into humanity, the structure of a workforce can stop humanity receiving help. Yeah? So I'm going to go on. Did you know that the police and social workers are sometimes sat with families late at night in offices trying to find somewhere for the children and sometimes their parents to go because there is a lack of housing and foster homes, etc. This job is not easy. You have no idea. Why is the government not giving bigger sentences to parents and support agencies? Maybe because it's easy to blame agencies and to put their hand in the pocket. Social care and adults are underpaid. End of. I said my bit. Have a think. And with that, I understand that when you're in a work capacity, that, even when you want to help someone, you hear things, you see things, how can you best help that person so they don't lose their child? And I've been a child of social services. I've been put in foster places and care homes myself. I also understand that the child comes first. Parents also have a big role to play in keeping the child safe. But if the parent is the parent is being in a situation where even there's domestic abuse, because this is why I was in social services as well, because there was a lot of abuse and alcohol. And so I, as a child, were removed from my parents' care. Okay. And again, the in and out of, nobody knows as a child what it's like to be in a care home, okay, a children's home. So being in a children's home, being placed, and where are you going to be placed? Does it fit your diversity? So they're not showing something. It's not easy to take a child off a parent. The idea is prevent that from happening. So they provide you or tell you where to go and get the help so you can sort oneself out. Oneself, maybe you're drinking, maybe you're in a midst of domestic abuse, maybe you don't know how to get out of domestic abuse, maybe you've not even recognized it's domestic abuse. Kids don't just get taken for no reason. Yeah, kids get taken because there is some form of neglect. There is some form of what's the word? There is an interest. Somebody's complaining that something about that child or something about that parent is not quite right, and that they have safety concerns for a child. But the problem is about safeguarding. When we talk about safeguarding, all right, this is what is failing us, and I feel people need to be held accountable, okay, for safeguarding. Safeguarding sometimes isn't worth the paper it's written on, although they make sure that everybody understands what safeguarding really means. If there is concern, it's everybody's active duty to make sure that that concern is investigated and that the welfare of individuals being reported are okay. Okay, so let's take, for instance, I've safeguarded an individual before. That meant I had to deal with the police, that meant I had to deal with the housing, and it meant that I would have to deal with the social services. Now, I can understand the disgruntlement on social services. We're particularly like even in adult care. So not just talking about the children, we're talking about adult care as well. Those people that may have disabilities and they need their circumstances change. Now, I was up against what I call the system. Okay, everybody has somebody else to answer to within their departments. Okay, and when there is a matter of urgency, that has to be taken in consideration, and all avenues need to be investigated. But safeguarding doesn't work if, and this is where I'm finding the missing link, if somebody is not going to pass on the information and work as a team to see that that individual is cared for appropriately and the right measures and the policies are the tick boxes that you've done everything you can for that person. All right. But safeguarding, I find, needs to be addressed, because safeguarding is only going to the person that you're reporting it to. Just say you've got a problem about antisocial behavior and it's affecting your mental health. Who do you turn to? That's the police, that's the council, or housing. And the council and housing will turn around and say, oh, we think we need to safeguard you. Why? Because you're vulnerable, or because it's affecting your health, or because there's a danger here. So where then does that report go to? That then report goes to, so you've given it to, i.e. Sally, and then Sally has to then give it to the police, and the police are supposed to inquiry to social services and to whoever. So everybody has a duty of care to make sure that, has your doctor been informed? Has your mental health been informed? Has somebody been informed of this situation? But often you'll find that things get reported and they're just put on someone's desk. And when they're put on someone's desk, you then get, oh, they're on annual leave. So this is where the delay in help is. It took me 2 years to make sure that an individual was safeguarded 14 times, where they're written concerns from different agencies, but somebody has to take the lead in safeguarding to make sure that those agencies are listening, that they respond and they change the circumstances. Now, what is the circumstances? That's the thing. You could be dealing with a vulnerable woman or man, and they might have children. Now, if they've got children, we've got to look at the aspect. Is the parent healthy? Is the child healthy? All too often, I've seen parents fight for their children, and I've had things, they've had malicious, complaints against them, and you'll have the parent saying, it wasn't me, it's the mother, it's a mother, or it's the father. And the blame game goes on between children, between the parents, and the child is caught in the middle. This is why often you will hear the word parent alienation coming in when people want to fight for their children. Parent alienation can do so much damage to a child, but it can also, even as an adult, you're someone's child. So as an adult, children are children, right? We're talking about age differences, but you're still someone's child, whether you're an adult or whether you're a child. So mentally, it's not only going to affect a child, it's going to affect an adult mentally when the challenges are up, when you're up against the system. Being challenged by social workers, being told off by social workers hasn't been pleasant. And if I have to talk about my own experiences in the past, when I've been in a situation, exhausted from a situation, was my children getting the right attention? Were they being neglected? Were social workers involved? I had social workers involved in myself because there was a domestic abuse. So the children in the middle are the concern. Now, what I was told by a social worker, that if I went back with the perpetrator, I would lose my children. Can you imagine that? I'm going to lose my children if I stay with the perpetrator. All right. So as an adult, you have that choice. But what choice does a child have to be in an unhealthy situation? So what this social worker is saying and writing to say is, as parents, we have that duty to keep our children safe. And if we don't have the right skills, because we've learned some crappy experience, or maybe we haven't had a good upbringing ourselves, and maybe we thought this is the way to raise children, etc. There are courses, there are parenting courses. And if you're getting yourself into domestic abuse, did you know that the Freedom Program, which you might sit there and say, oh, that's crap, it's awareness full stop. It's a red flag. It's to prevent you from getting into these unhealthy relationships, so then people are involved to take your children away. Yeah, these things are there so we can improve and enhance life and awareness and get those skills so we can be independent, so we can nurture our children. But when you've got social services involved and the police and the care, everybody that's got to write to make sure that a child is not neglected, everybody has an active duty of care. But nobody stops to think about what actually the social worker who is in that role feels like, because you're looking at a title, you're looking at a uniform, you're not looking at that person that has to carry out all that work, who has to intervene with parents, who has to say, I don't really want to take your children from you. If you work with this person and work with that person and work with that person, perhaps we can address what's going on here. We need all the tools to make sure that you can keep your children. But too many people want to blame social services for even their interaction. Maybe they would never be involved if somebody didn't have a concern. Maybe somebody, maybe your neighbor, maybe somebody in the street saw you smacking a child or disciplining a child a certain way. Maybe they saw you drunk in the street as an adult or getting into something, and they've got concerns for you. Safeguarding means it's everybody's responsibility to make sure that humanity has equality. And that Equality Act is important because it is the human rights. And the human rights means that nobody should be suffering, and they should be free from abuse. Unfortunately, people do abuse the system, and people do abuse people. And I think the letter was an expression from a social worker who says that they're fed up being blamed for somebody else's errors. And sometimes people's hands are tied in offices to how far they can take something. And that I can hear it now. Even with my own case, there was a safeguarding issue for myself, and I could hear it now. Oh, tell her to go away. Oh, this is too much. Oh, it will burn itself out, and hope that that person doesn't die at the hands of those agencies that have that information about you or your child. And I'll be honest with you that I've been failed by the system so many times. When I look at the word system, I have to then break it down. Who had the information about me or about that child or about that person? Who had that written information that something is wrong in the household? Okay, so where does it start? So we look at where the starting point is, okay? And that's not going to be social services. That's not going to be the police. That's not going to be any of them, is it? It's going to be your household. It's going to be your circumstances that is going to get these people involved. This is why we always say, when it comes to mental health and depression, stability is key to well-being. Giving people the tools to get better and giving them an opportunity so they don't lose their children. Because I always think that taking away someone's child, yeah, that's horrible. Horrible. But sometimes children need to be taken away. And if I wasn't taken away as a child, I would continue to have bruises over my face. I would continue living in an unhealthy situation. So we're all too quick to blame the services, yet somebody calls them. Now, I think what's got people rattled is the little boy that was killed when there was involvement. Again, safeguarding. And the parents, somebody asked me, do you think the parents should have had a stiffer sentence? I feel that there's so much more to the end result. All that before, maybe these individuals that created cruelty were treated cruel themselves, and maybe, just maybe, neglected by the system themselves, and they've been getting away with their behavior for a very long time, then inflicted it on some young, innocent child stuck in the middle of relationships. It is relationships. Those, oh, but I love him. Oh, I love her. When there are children involved, it's those children that have no say into your private relationships. Unfortunately, women, and I have to say this, women have fleeing for their lives with children and often blamed and victimized again by the system and looked at as unworthy parents, when actual fact is nobody taught them about what domestic abuse is and how their own children can be used and manipulated and groomed just like daddy or mummy wants them to be. You'll be surprised what children go through in the grooming policy when it comes to parent. You will be surprised what men and some women, and I'm going to use it as an equal thing here, because behavior is behavior and people are people, but it is looking at the behavior. You'll be so very surprised in how many people are coerced into making them mistreat their own children. If some people don't mistreat their own children, there are consequences for them. So you'll find yourself in coercive control and domestic abuse. And you'll find that fathers and mothers use the system to gain access and control against one another parent, to bully that parent. And they don't give a damn about that child in the middle. That child comes first. If you're unsure of your healthy relationships and you think there's a little bit abusive, being told what to do, yeah, get some help for that. Yeah, freedom program. Well, you might think it's rubbish, you might never heard about it, but that's what the courts are using. If you want your children back, you need to do the homework into how did you get yourself in this situation in the first place? How does it happen? So please, let's stop blaming everybody and let's start with when you have a child, when you're bringing children into this world, it is your responsibility. You lay down with someone, you have a child, it's your responsibility whether or not you want to continue to bring a child into this world. Have you got the tools? Have you learned everything about it? Maybe you've learned some bad things in your own life. Maybe you'd like to be a better parent than what happened in your own life. Maybe you're not sure how to parent. Believe me, when we have children at young ages, we're not all equipped to manage a child, and it can be exhausting and people can lose their tempers. But this is where we all need to come together and help people, help one another, help them. We've changed, but no, again, where are you putting your child? Because know who's coming in your child's life. Because those family members are the ones that are actually sometimes destroying your own children's life. Too close to home is abuse. Starts under a roof. Who's coming in your house? If you don't have a roof and you're pregnant, now we need to get you stable. We need to give you the tools. Please take the help. Take the courses. Take the workshops that are supplied free of charge for you. They're not free of charge for the person that tried to put it on. Yeah? They have to go and get the funding, but they have to make sure that there is something there for you. Take the courses, parenting courses. Take whatever if you want to keep your children. Apply the action. And nurture that life, yours too. Nurture your life, because as an individual person, I know the influences can come from outside. Okay? So I'm only going to talk from a child of being a child of care myself, a child that went into the system myself, a child that was failed with sexual abuse, child abuse. That was me. All right? I'm talking about when we go to the, and I've also taken myself to the social services. I've asked the social services for help myself. What I was actually asking for the social services, which didn't come out that way. What I should have been asking is, how do I get rid of the perpetrator? How do I keep safe? Is this right what this person is doing to me? Is this right that this person... Do you know the person, one of my perpetrators used to label food? And we weren't allowed to touch anything of that without permission. That was including my own children. And I didn't know what I was in. And it's only now that I'm doing this job and doing the role under mental health that I can understand domestic. I can understand where it comes from. I can understand at the end of the day that people use it all too frequently. Oh, it was alcohol. Oh, he lost his job. It will never happen again. They promised me. Listen, you come first when you've got a child. Yeah? When you've got a child, you've got the active duty to nurture that child, teach that child right. Because if it's getting influenced by somebody that is a perpetrator, more likely they'll go on to be one. So teaching is crucial when we are nurturing one another. The blame game, stop it. Take responsibility and get help. And yeah, I know it's hard to trust people. It's very difficult to trust agencies and services when you want help. But there are plenty of groups out there that can help you and even signpost you to the appropriate care. Okay? If you've been affected by any of the things that you're hearing, you know, again, speak to someone about it. I'm not quite sure about this. You know, when I got that message that almost I got penalized for raising the voice for somebody else, if that's how they feel because they're the one helping another child, that's how they feel. They shouldn't be helping a child. It should be the person who's bringing the child should be doing that. But unfortunately, we have other people taking over, getting involved to make sure the child is safe. And that can take its toll on even the worker. Who is giving the workers support when they are having to do distressing things and removing children and being blamed for it, and then actually being ridiculed and even stalked and harassed because they removed a child? Removing a child doesn't come lightly, and it comes after investigation. It comes after a numerous of complaints, numerous safeguarding referrals. And as I will say again, anybody that is receiving a safeguarding referral in agency has the active, the first person that got it. Don't think, oh, I'll just hand it over to them. See it out to make sure that the job is completed. Because this is all too frequently what's happening is somebody will safeguard, the information gets put over into that office, maybe somebody's off and it doesn't get shared. And this is where the damage is being done. Sometimes when we talk about safeguarding referrals, we literally have to think, who are we sending that referral to? Who's going to step up and help that individual? So that piece of paper like this is a safeguarding referral. Everybody, every agency. So if you use those 4 corners, social worker, police, even mental health, yeah? And then the individual. So is the individual getting help and getting all of the support they need, not just being ridiculed and being victimized? Are they getting help, rehabilitation, child parenting classes, anger management, drug and alcohol addiction, financial stability? Have they got clothes? Do they know where to go to get extra clothes? Food bank can they read? Can they write? There's a number of reasons why people are prevented from going forward. So when you're dealing with a human being, make sure the package is there. Don't just look at oh my God, look at the underlying issues of what's causing it, and help where you can help. Too many people criticize other people, but they're not even willing to step up and help another person. Hi, I heard you're a bit short. I've got some clothes here. Do you need them? If you've got clothes and you don't want them, send them somewhere. Don't just put them in the bin. Give them to somebody else that's raising awareness to help somebody. Give them to social services. Advertise them on Facebook. Some people need clothes. Some people need food. Some people may have just lost their job. Some people may have just had to relocate. Some people may have had to flee. And that's the circumstances, isn't it? It's the circumstances. So, we want people to have stability, which is key. Understanding, which is also key. And less of the gaslighting, because you'll find at the end of the day that some of these systems gaslight. Absolutely. They blame. I've been blamed. When I've had a perpetrator on me, clear as day, you can see it's a perpetrator, but I've also been blamed. And the word of, their mental health. That's rubbish. And people use mental health against somebody to cover up the tracks of a perpetrator. No. And this is the problem. Even perpetrators, they've got a problem. They need to rehabilitate themselves so they don't go on to hurt somebody else. And I believe anyone that is a perpetrator has to have rehabilitation. Prison is not the answer, because it's not rehabilitation. Not to me. I always think that it's like a holiday camp. They seem to eat KFC in there. They seem to have pizza, mobile phones, and everything else. How is that justice? It's not justice. Rehabilitation. They can't just stick them in prison and then they come out and commit the crimes all over again. Harassment. How do you prevent a perpetrator from contacting another person when that person's asked the system to protect them? This is you'll find. Need to use victim support as well. All of these agencies are here for you, but you've got to know how to use the system and do things in a chronological order of events to help you if it's not you doing it. Because there's so many gaslighting that goes on, and so many people say, it's her, she's the mother, she's a bad parent. Anyone downputting like that, another parent, at the end of the day, that's in itself, I would say, if you're disgruntled with the parent, I think they may need a little bit of support. Because after all, we're raising a child together. Co-parenting. Often people just want to put down the other parent. And it's that child that suffers. It's the grandmothers that suffer. It's the uncles, it's the aunties, it's everybody that suffers. And the child, most of all, suffers being put in the middle. So even though social services can be involved, I do find the courts sometimes reinforce the behaviour by allowing perpetrators to continue to use their children as a weapon. And I don't like that. Child comes first. If you're suffering with anything, then you want some help and support. I know life coaches. Hey, there are people willing even on this platform to turn around and give you some help. If you look in the mentoring bit, there is people offering their service and they're qualified. Some are qualified, some are just people. So if you're looking at mentoring, you can get that support. For me, social services, have I got room to talk? I can only talk from a child that was put into care from my point. Safeguarding, I can talk from the safeguarding point of view, what that is, what that entails, and who's supposed to be responsible for that to make sure that you're safe. Do you know I was safeguarded a whole year ago? And to this day, it ain't worth the shit it's written on. Because you find yourself fighting individuals. You haven't put the message across. You haven't done your duty. And when you can see the red flags, you just leave them sometimes. And you see that's why people leave their jobs. They go to another department because the heat is on them when they've made an error. When they've made an error and they haven't done what's supposed to be done on the tin, then they move another department. And that safeguarding again just gets thrown out the window and you become unimportant. So yeah, when victims are telling you something is wrong and victims asking for support, it is everybody's business to make sure that they are no longer victimized, no longer neglected. And that's the word you're looking at, neglect, responsibility. Okay, so yes, I'm very passionate about making sure that children are protected. I'm also very passionate about where the blame lies. I'm also aware of how the system is designed and flawed, but is a challenge. Okay, I'm also aware that one individual can make a decision on your life that flips everything upside down for many, many, many years. I understand how children are being taken away and what it does to a parent. I understand. Because I hear those pleas. I hear those cries. I hear many people saying they don't want to be here anymore because they've got nothing to live. Their children have been taken away. Let me tell you something, yeah? Children will come back and look because they want to know their identity. So make sure that your Facebook pages also don't show discrimination and nasty information because they're going to look at your character when they come back. Make sure you've cleaned your act up and you're no longer drinking. As if that was the reason why your children are being removed because of these unhealthy coping strategies, when they come back, clean your act up, clean it up. They can't help you do that. Only you can do that. Only you can do that. You as an individual, you have a duty to make sure that you look after yourself. Okay? They always say look after yourself before you can help anybody else. And that's very true. Because if you're not well, if you're going through an ordeal, then there's people in your environment, they're going through it with you. Okay? Everybody wants to see that you do well in life. Some people don't, but that's their issue. Karma comes back when you don't wish people well, all right? So I want to make sure that I'm very clear that from social services point of view, it is a very tough job. It is enough to cause trauma, especially when they have to have training and they're shown images of neglect of a child. So then they have flashbacks. Then they've got to deal with the trauma. They've got to look at, they're getting all this kind of horrible information of something that maybe you've experienced. Definitely I've experienced. But these people that may never have been through it are having to have all that information put in the system. So they need help and support too, so they're not overworked, overloaded, and the blame. Like I said, everybody has someone to answer to. So even if you've got a social worker that made a decision, they come to a panel decision. It's a panel. That's the safeguarding right there. And then everybody's talking about amongst one another in what's best and how to proceed. And unfortunately, it is our attitude test. And the attitude test, the one that the police do at the side, whether you're going to give them attitude or not, whether or not they're going to arrest you, it's the same thing in the services. You give any of them an attitude test, they'll be like, I don't have to put up with this. Yeah, I can see how they are. I know they don't identify it as your plea and your please don't take my child. They don't identify it as that you are passionate about what you're saying. They see it as bad behavior. They see it as aggressive and hostile. I've had that word put on me many of times when actually it's not. It's a fight for survival. It's to say, look, give me the help me. blah, 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 instead of judging. And that's the thing. Too often, too many people judge without knowing the full story, the full life of somebody, what they've gone through, PSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. How do they end up with the labels? The labels like EUPD and BPD, bipolar, borderline personality disorders. How did they end up? Child abuse. Some of them. Majority, according to my research. So we're the ones that were missing, right? We're the ones that were neglected, right? Right. We're the ones that social services didn't even remove us, right? Am I back in the social services right now? No, because that post is politically, in a sense, correct. We are taught to keep secrets. And this is what I'm against now. No secrets. Ask for help. Get the right help. Let's stop doing the blame and let's removing the shame and get the help and sort things out before it's too late. So I want to put out a request to all those mothers out there or parents out there that have lost your children. Yeah? Don't give up. Show them who you can be, not what you was, not why you had the child removed or whatever else. Show them what you can be, because you're not in that circumstances later on, are you, when they come back? So make sure that you are getting your act together and that you are a positive role model. They will come back and have the chance to explain. I always say to people, if you've had your child removed, document it, diary it, do it on a private setting so no one can see it. So when the child does come back into life, you've left all the messages there, diaried everything about how you feel, so they can believe in you, and hopefully you can have a relationship with them, and it'll be a long-term relationship. So yeah, a lot of people that are taken into care, we do blame our parents for what happened to us. But I know now that if the education would be there for a parent, and perhaps the blame could be removed a bit. All right. I don't blame my parents. I did at one point, but I don't blame them anymore of what happened to me. I blame the perpetrator. And I blame the fact that I wasn't educated to, hey, darling, if anybody does you any wrong or does anything, come and tell me. I wasn't spoken to as a child like that. So are you approachable? Can your children come to you? Can your friends come to you? Don't just go, oh my God, you should leave them. Told you don't be with them. Don't do that. Provide them numbers. Provide them maybe domestic violence. I'm not just saying that everything is about domestic. Some things is about people just lose their job and they go into just a zombie world or can't focus because they've just got too much in their bucket. We need to give people the information of where they can go and get help. So if you're one of those that are receiving messages, you hear something, send over information of helplines or put it on your post, your Facebook group or whatever, your post, your own personal group about domestic violence helpline, child abuse helpline, all of those things. Put it on your post. And if you find yourself in that situation, get help. That's all I can say. Get help. Change starts with you, right? Change starts with actually understanding the situation and actually addressing and being truthful with what the hell is going on behind closed doors and what the hell is going on in the system. We can't change nothing if we keep secrets. We can't change nothing if we don't. As the social worker spoke up against it for many other social workers, and I allowed that post. Because what they're simply saying is they wouldn't have that job in the beginning if there was no need for it. These systems, these little departments of workshops have been set up because it's been identified that people need help before it's too late. Rome's not built in a day. And there certainly could be a bit more structure and more planning around giving parents more help. And I find that when a parent has had ridicule on them about and got social services involved, I feel that the parent doesn't get the help. because when they're fighting to see their children, they don't get the help. They got the system against them, writing all bad reports against them. And you've got somebody else. So you could have a whole lifetime of being good, and one incident will cost you your whole children's lives. And then you'll be having to give a letter once a month to a child. Imagine giving a letter once a month to a child and not being able to see that child, hold that child, be having any interest in that. Well, that's what's going on. That's what's going on. And then it gets blamed that the social services are at fault for it. But some of the due diligence there is previous history suggests there may be domestic abuse. See? Current history, what is the circumstances that involve that child? Yeah, the children. The children. End the abuse. End the neglect. End the suffering. For the sake of a child. Thank you for listening.